Hey everybody, this is Paul Carruthers. I'm the communications manager for MotoAmerica. This is our weekly podcast Off Track with myself and Sean Bice, who is located out in Ohio, and I'm here in Southern California. Our guest today is King of the Baggers racer, Frankie Garcia. I've known Frankie for a long time. He kind of even worked for me there for a little bit. I guess I was the boss at the time. I don't know how that worked actually, but we had a good time together. We got to know each other really well. Sean, how are you today?
Hey, I'm great. So, we got back from our trip in Austin and that test went well. In a couple weeks here, we'll be in Road Atlanta. So it's nice that unlike last year where we took a little while for us to get our season started, we're starting a little earlier this year. And it's great to be going to Road Atlanta, especially because that's the first round of King of the Baggers with our guest being involved. So nothing like starting our season right off with a bang with the big bikes out there. So
Yeah, it's going to be good. I think the test was a nice little tease for how good I think the Superbike Championship is going to be. I mean, obviously you were there, so you saw the same thing I did, but those guys battled for the fastest lap and everybody was real close on lap times, and you could tell everybody was really serious and hungry and ready to go. I don't think any of those top guys in the Superbike class, I think they all believe that they can win races and be champions. So it's a pretty cool feeling going into the season, and I'm really excited. I don't know how I don't think I've been this excited for the opener in a long time, so it should be cool.
Yeah, Paul, it was interesting at the test. One of the things that I didn't expect is the amount of gamesmanship that was going on there. And they don't at our test, they don't run the yellow striped Q tire, the super soft for a lap or two to go a super quick lap, but they did have that red striped soft tire, which is a race tire, but a very soft one. And it's funny, there was a lot of gamesmanship as to who used it, who didn't, and who was going fast on that tire versus fast on a regular race tire. And some teams that were saying, well, we were there for trying to do race simulation, and others it was, well, we were there to do fast laps and everything. So it was just kind of funny that there was so much involved in that test beyond just what the purpose of it really is to knock the rust off, but also for Dunlop to test some tires. So it is interesting.
Yeah, and I think I hate to say this, but I think the guys that say, oh, we're just here to do race times and work on race setup were just the guys that didn't have the fast lap. You know what I mean? It's like,
I agree.
It's like the fallback. But, I think if you look at the times overall and what people were able to do, no matter what tires they were on, the way that it looked, it just worked out that everybody was really close. And that's going to, we'll get to Road Atlanta and see what's real and what's not, but at least going into it, I don't think it could get any better. But we've got, let's get to Frankie Garcia, because he has a real job and that he actually needs to get to. Unlike Sean and I, who don't have real jobs, and we could just like podcast for like 12 hours straight if we wanted to. So Frankie, how are you, man? I saw you out at our track day the other day at Willow Springs. I hadn't seen you for a while, but we catch up every once in a while. It's always good to see you, and it was nice to have you out there.
Yeah, man, I've been pretty good. Like you said, I've just been working us bagger guys. With it being new, there aren't any factory rides yet, so we got to work during the week and stuff. But it's all good. It's part of it. But no, I've been good, man. We had a lot of fun on Monday out at the Bikes and Burgers event at Willow Springs. Obviously, thanks to the MotoAmerica, everyone over there for putting on that event. It was a good time. We had a lot of fun. We got to test some new stuff and ride some new bikes, and it was good catching up with everybody. It was like a big family reunion.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. We even had Wahid out there, and once I got all the spiders out of my leathers, and I started to have fun as well. So it was pretty cool.
Nice. Did you go faster than Orlando Bloom, or did he pass you?
Oh no, I stuffed the hell out of him. if they have like a Lord of the Rings remake, I'm gonna star in that bad boy.
Yeah, that's gonna be you. He's done. He's out. You're in.
That's it.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about. Obviously, you're going to be riding an Indian in the King of the Baggers series this year, starting at Road Atlanta in just a few weeks. I know you're excited about it. We've talked about it before. You've kind of been of late that sort of like race anything type guy. I mean, we've done hooligans, you've done some journalism, you've done bike testing, you've done a lot of stuff, and then this thing seems to fit right in your ballpark, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, you know, I was just talking about this the other day. Everyone's like, man, like whatever kind of weird style racing comes up, like everyone knows like you'll probably end up being a part of it. And I'm like, yeah, you know, with the hooligan racing, and you know, I've raced flat track and a little bit of motocross, and I road raced, and you know, I like to ride motorcycles, and that's what it comes down to. But it's just kind of funny because, you know, back in the day, like when I was working with you and you know, we were working at Cycle News and stuff, baggers have always been my favorite motorcycle, just because since I was a kid, it's always been racing. It's always been like whatever motorcycle you're going to ride, like the plan most of the time is to just go as fast as you possibly can on it. So I always like baggers because you can get on them and cruise, and there was no pressure. There was never, you know, you just enjoy motorcycling. And, you know, that was all, you know, all cool up until last year, but now we're racing those things. So, but no, I'm excited. I'm really excited. I had a lot of fun at Laguna Seca last year, and getting, you know, being able to, you know, be picked out of, you know, there's tons of other riders and guys out there that, you know, could have been potential fast guys for the series, but, you know, having Indian and Roland Sands Designs, you know, pick me out of the litter to pilot that Indian Challenger was, it was really cool of them. So, yeah, we had a lot of fun at Laguna Seca, and it being my home track made it even better. I never in my career, if that's what you want to call it, got to race there. So, it was really cool to be able to show up and finally, you know, knock that off my bucket list, and to get to race my home track, and even more so do it on a bagger. But yeah, we got a Road Atlanta coming up, round 1, and you know, we're getting our final stuff going, and you know, we're doing a 2-day test this weekend at Chuckwalla on the bike, the race bike, and we got some new stuff that I'm not quite sure if I'm allowed to talk about or not, but we got a lot of new stuff that we're testing and a lot of new parts, and you know, we're gonna have, you know, version 2.0 of the Indian Challenger ready to rock at Atlanta. It's gonna be cool.
Frankie, I'm going to expound a little bit on your background and transition into some things about riding the bagger that you mentioned about you riding a lot of different things. You're extremely versatile and have been in your career. I mean, a former supermoto rider, obviously you've road raced, you did the hooligan stuff at X Games, and you've ridden basically every kind of motorcycle that there is. And, you know, so my knowledge of cruiser bikes or touring bikes is pretty limited, because I've probably been on one, you know, I can count them on the fingers of two fingers in one hand. I can't even say it right. I haven't ridden them too much. And every time I've been on them, my biggest problem is that I can't seem to turn them around. I can't even do a U-turn because my feet are so far forward. And I understand all the development and work you guys have done with the rear sets on those bikes, that they're a little bit more racy, quite a bit more racy than a touring bike, stock one, but still they're not completely rear sets. But explain how it is on your bike. Does it feel like you're on a race bike, or does it still feel a little bit like you're riding a bike that maybe shouldn't necessarily be on the track?
I mean, thanks to everyone at S&S. I mean, those guys put so much development into this project with the Indian Challenger. When they, you know, originally started get going with Tyler, when they built the first bike, they had a lot of stuff in the works by the time it came down to getting our bike done. And one of the biggest things, and I think for us and for me versus everyone else, like, you know, the other manufacturers, was those rear sets that we had on our bikes. Our foot pegs are mounted to where the stock passenger pegs would normally mount to. So we have proper, like, when you sit on our bike, it feels like you're sitting on a road racer. I think Ben Bostrom sat on my bike at Laguna Seca and was like, this thing's proper. Like, this is a road racing bike. And I mean, I always try to explain it to people that are like, because everyone kind of asks that same question. They're like, what's it like? You know, how's it feel? Like, does it feel weird when you ride it? And like, my best the best way to describe it is like, no, it doesn't feel like a super bike because it's obviously longer, much longer and heavier. But the best way to describe it is I always tell everyone it's like a Hayabusa with a V-twin engine in it. So it's like a sport bike with a V-twin engine, just a long sport bike. It's kind of it feels really proper. Like for people that haven't ridden it, like it's almost hard to explain how almost too natural it feels, from what it started out as. So it's not from the very first day we tested the bike, we went to Buttonwillow and I was nervous. I had all these butterflies. I had zero idea what to expect. And I was like, what am I getting myself into? Is this going to be sketchy? Is this going to be like, trying to drive, my Cadillac around the racetrack? Like, I thought it was going to be difficult. And we went out in the first session and Roland was behind me on a super bike. And I think I had my knee down, I was dragging my knee like halfway through the first lap. And I was like, I think we're going to be okay. So from the beginning, like I said, thanks to Ness and all their development and all the time that they put into building this bike properly, it's been good from the get-go, and it feels like a proper road racer.
I had done a story. I'd worked with David Zemla at SNS Cycle and written a story for the MotoAmerica website that detailed how to build a bagger from certainly their point of view and on an Indian Challenger. And the thing that's interesting is all the work that's done with the beveled engine cases and the pipe being high. I mean, obviously, the first thing you do is lean the bike over and see what hard parts hit to start with. And you say you're able to drag your knees, so you really can get down pretty low on those. Did you ground the cases at all around Laguna Seca?
No, the only thing, like you said, the beveled clutch cover and stuff like that, and they really took their time into making sure there was plenty of ground clearance on those Indian Challengers. But the only thing I ever at the test, we had the stock clutch cover and we did drag and whatnot, but by the time we got to the race and we had all the proper stuff and we did our homework and raised the bike up and put longer shocks on it, taller shocks, and the only thing I ever drug at the race was the very end tip of the exhaust. And that was kind of it. It was just, and that was only like under load. If you hit a bump like fully leaned over in the corner, the tip of the exhaust would just barely nick the ground. And I think we ended up taking a rubber mallet and just kind of beating that thing up a little bit, and after qualifying, and we were good to go. We had no issues after that.
So Frankie, you mentioned earlier about no factory riders. We just got news this morning actually that Kyle Wyman now has a factory Harley Davidson deal for the Baggers Championship in 2021. It's obviously a big deal that Harley Davidson places enough importance on that series to go ahead and field a factory team. It's also cool to have somebody of Kyle Wyman's caliber racing in the class. What do you think about that? How far off was Harley Davidson to what you guys were riding at Laguna, for example? I mean, we mentioned, you talked about it a little bit before the call with me, so reiterate that a little bit if you can.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, when we were at Laguna, like obviously Hayden Gillum was on the Vance and Hines Harley, and Hayden has proven himself plenty. He's an incredible road racer, and when I was showing up to that event, I didn't know what to expect. I knew nothing, and I've just seen these big names, Josh Heron and Ben Bostrom and Hayden Gillum, and I was like, man, I'm in for I'm in for a wild ride right here. I got to really pull something out of a hat, coming off the couch. And, I couldn't tell you that the last time I rode at a road race track, prior to this bagger thing. But we showed up and, straight out of first practice, I was third in times, and I knew we had a good package, and I knew I was confident in our bike going in. It was just the unknown of what's everyone else bringing to the table. And, Vance and Hines, those guys don't mess around over there. And, they have the knowledge and everything that they need in their stable to make race winning motorcycles, no matter what kind of discipline they're involved in. And so I knew that they'd be bringing something tough, and obviously putting Hayden on the bike would be a big deal. But we I think the Indian Challenger had, was a little bit of a bit of a step up from kind of the equipment that everyone else brought. And but Hayden's still fast. He was still there all weekend, and we out qualified him, and he obviously got me in the race. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to see Factory Harley, stepping in and hiring a guy like Kyle Wyman. It's funny, I was just watching like the Daytona 200 from like 1991 or something like that, or 92 the other night, and Miguel Duhamel was riding a Factory Harley Davidson, and I thought it was so funny because like Miguel's like, you think of Miguel and you just think like Daytona 200 like all-time winner, and there's Miguel like middle of the race getting lapped, and I just thought that was so funny that he came from that to like being the guy, but he was riding that Harley, and but I regardless of that, like I just thought that was so cool that like a manufacturer like Harley Davidson is going racing and then kind of goes full circle, and they're back in road racing now. So yeah, we saw that post from Kyle this morning, and there's kind of a funny story behind that. I saw that Kyle, obviously Laguna Seca is right by my house, and I saw that Kyle was there, and I texted him and I was like, hey man, like way to let me know you were here, like we could have had dinner and hung out and stuff and blah blah blah. And he like I thought it was weird that he like didn't say anything to me, that he was going to be in town knowing that I lived there, and he was like, yeah, real quick trip, it was last minute, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, I didn't think anything of it. And come to find out, like after this morning, I was like, that's why he never said anything, because he probably didn't want to have to lie to me about what he was doing.
Right.
But no, I think it's really cool. Like I think it's going to be really fun. Like we'll see what Harley brings to the table. Obviously, I know they did their homework after that first race, and they had a good engine package, and their bike was fast at Laguna Seca with Hayden on it, and it was fast in a straight line. But obviously my Challenger was we had a bone stock engine in that thing, and I know that our handling was a lot better than their bike. I can tell you that was for sure. But Kyle being on the bike, and Kyle's like a well-rounded rider, not that Hayden isn't, but he's coming off a super bike, and he's a good guy to ride with, and I'm excited to see what they can pull out of the truck, and see what we can all do together. Obviously, like I said, we got some new stuff as well, and we got some engine stuff and some chassis stuff and electronic stuff, and that we're going to be testing this weekend, and I think everyone's coming in pretty hot to this situation, and I think Atlanta's going to get really interesting.
Frankie, I want to talk to you a little bit more about what I touched on before, and it's kind of the characteristics of the bike. I know, again, your versatility as a rider and the fact that you've done moto journalism too. I know that you can evaluate bikes and what you're doing when you're riding. And, for me, I started out, my first street bike when I was 16 was an RD 350 two-stroke, which I still own. And I've got a little SRX 600 single. And my favorite bike is my FZ1, which, I just love an inline four, the way it feels. But each of those bikes, I mean, obviously you can never lose your love for a two-stroke. And that's SRX 6 single, the torque in it, I just love to short shift it and, twist the throttle, which I've never really had a V twin, but that torque, flat torque curve reminds me of that. Tell me, with what you've ridden different bikes around Laguna Seca too. Let's talk about that track, because it's the one you rode the bike on. What do you have to do around that track that's different? I mean, is it obviously you've got a long wheelbase, braking must be different, accelerating out of the corner, and even going down through the corkscrew. Can you give us a little bit of a comparison to other bikes you've ridden there, and what it's like, what you have to do that's different?
I think like the main difference, obviously Laguna's, it's technical, but there's only 11 corners, so it's not too crazy. There's not straightaway. There's not like it isn't too many places where you're like braking extremely heavily, going from like a big straightaway down to a, really slow corner, because the track's it flows really well. But, I've ridden 600 race bikes there. I've ridden a couple super bikes there. And I think the biggest difference, and kind of like the only difference other than like, your obvious reasons, braking points and acceleration points and things like that. Obviously, when you're going from, a race bike, a sport bike, race bike to, V-twin cruiser race bike, it's going to be a little bit different in those areas. But I think the biggest thing was on the baggers, because they're so big and because they move around and there's a lot more flex to them. It was really important to really make your corners flow and really make your corners really wide and not, come in real tight and kind of stop and go. Like that kind of stuff doesn't work. Stuff you could get away with on like a little nimble sport bike. Was not going to always was not going to work on the bagger. And I think the biggest difference as far as riding it and changing things was making sure that you're flowing through the corners and not kind of getting in and stopping and turning the thing on a dime and going, because once you started doing that, that's when you're losing time and you're dragging parts. And so as long as we kept it flowing, like that seemed to be the ticket.
All right, Frankie. I know we kind of got to cut you loose here, and it's unfortunate because
God, we only teased this thing.
What's that?
We only teased this thing.
I know.
So badly.
I know, and he's got a lot to say. He's a good kid.
No, I mean we're good. I mean we still got some time. We can keep on going here.
All right. Well, you let us know when we got to be done. How's that? That'll be
Yeah. There we go. I mean, when my phone rings, I'll let you know.
All right, that'll be perfect, and then we'll let you go, and we can wrap it up without you. But
cool.
Back to the racing. You obviously, well, not obviously, but I know you haven't ridden at Road Atlanta before. Is that right?
I haven't. I've never ridden there.
I think you're gonna like it.
I'm excited to go there. I'm really excited to go there. I think my little brother got to ride there. I think, did they do the MotoGP, or not the MotoGP, like the Red Bull Rookies Cup tryouts there?
You know what? They may have, because I think that was the time when Schwantz had his.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
right.
my brother went back and he got to ride that track, but I never got to ride there. So I'm excited about that. It's one thing I never got to do, like as a road racer. I did some Daytona sport bike stuff in 2012, and I did the Daytona 200, and then I did the West Coast races, and something I never got to experience really was the East Coast tracks, like the bread and butter of like American superbike racing and all those tracks that we used to watch on TV when I was a kid. And the tracks that like Nicky and Mladen and Miguel and all those guys rode when I was watching superbikes as a kid. So I'm extremely familiar with all the tracks, obviously, from watching them throughout the years, but being able to go back and ride Road Atlanta and Road America, it's really cool for me. And like just like racing Laguna was, like these tracks are bucket list tracks for me to race as well.
When we go to Road America, and you, Frankie, you've never been to Road America either?
No, I haven't.
So we've had some comments from people that are like, "Oh, what's that going to be like to ride a bagger around there?" Well, I mean, those things are like a steam engine locomotive. I mean, they get out there on the front straight. You got to be able to get up some top end, I would think, and go pretty fast. Once you get in a straight line there, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, those things. I think the Indian Challenger is like 1,800 cc's, so I don't think they have any problem going fast. I mean, obviously we saw it at Laguna Seca, and that track doesn't have a big straightaway, but I'm really excited to get on a big, long, fast straightaway and just let the thing eat. There's a lot of power in that, in that power plant, and it's going to be really cool just to, getting a big tuck and just on a V-twin and just haul ass down the straightaway. It's going to be fun. And it's going to be cool too. Like we have the big windscreens and stuff like that. So it's like, I'm thinking about, maybe I'll pack a sandwich and put it on the top of the tank there. And, got a long, big straightaway. We'll just grab some gears and have a little snack.
I'm sure you remember, Frankie, you talk about, riders from the older days, and you mentioned a Hayabusa. So I'm sure you remember when Rad Greaves raced that Hayabusa, right?
That's nuts, man. I can't believe that. I cannot believe that. I mean, a Hayabusa is like, I mean, I worked at Suzuki, and I actually did a Hayabusa press launch, and I've ridden, as a journalist, I've taken a Hayabusa and rode it out at Willow Springs, and they're just big, they're just long. It's just a really long super bike with a lot of power. But I mean, to go and race one is like, that's next level. But it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm glad somebody did that.
Yeah, that was cool.
Glad it wasn't you.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't me. I'm glad somebody else did it.
I mean, no more perfect a name than Rad to make that happen. But
exactly.
Paul and I say this a lot. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and you kind of wonder this year, as this series goes from an invitational to an actual racing championship with 3 rounds. Not only am I wondering how many more Indians are going to be involved, but how many more of the bikes are probably going to be more properly set up. There was such a far discrepancy. You mentioned Josh Herron, and he was almost his rear sets were almost like he was sitting in a chair. His feet weren't really too far behind him. So I would imagine some teams are going to dial in that racy setup a lot more after seeing what you did and what Tyler did. And Hayden Gillen was kind of sitting in a chair a little bit too, but he can ride anything, I guess. So, but don't you expect that setup's going to be a little more, people are going to copy you guys a little bit?
I think, I mean, like I said, I can't take any credit for the way that the bike was built. I just hopped on it and twisted the throttle, but S&S and Roland Sands Designs and all those guys, like those guys are the guys to give the credit to, but they definitely set the bar high. I mean, they weren't messing around. I think I mentioned that before. I think all the guys at S&S over there, when this project came about, they got really serious in a hurry, and we showed up with guns to a knife fight, that's for sure. And I think a lot of people saw that, and I think it was pretty obvious. Tyler won by however far he won by, and after running off the track, and I showed up off the couch. I couldn't tell you the last time I rode a road racer, and ate cold leftover pizza for breakfast, and put it on the podium. And I think that just goes to show that Challenger was built pretty well from the get-go. So I definitely know that a lot of teams saw kind of what we had and what kind of packages we had with our stuff and our setup. And I can guarantee you that all those teams that we saw at Laguna Seca are going to show up with some more proper equipment to Road Atlanta. I can tell you that. So I think it's good, though. I think it was good that we were able to do that, and like these guys were able to see where the bar was set, and I think it's just going to make them put some more time into their bikes and make the racing better and the racing closer, and get everyone kind of bunched up better. I think it's a good thing.
All right, I got a question for you. Have you started training yet?
Actually, I did. When I put my leathers on Monday at the Bikes and Burgers event, I think Josh Herron came up to me and he's like, dude, why are those things so big? He's like, and he looked at me and I kind of smiled. He's like, have you been working out? Are you getting ready to go bagger racing? And I was like, yeah, maybe. So yeah, I've never been, working out and training has always been like my weak point. I'm just a big kid, and I like to eat food and not care. But I think I'm, at the kind of end of my, racing. Like I said, I don't want to call it a career, but I think I'm sort of at the end of the line there. I'm going to be 30 this year, and I have a full-time job and all that stuff. So unless this bagger thing keeps going, I'm kind of nearing the end of my professional racing time in my life. And so I was like, you know what, this bagger thing, it's new, it's going to be the first thing. And I kind of did it with hooligan racing. I went, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the final chapter. And I took that serious for a couple years. But now the bagger thing's coming up, and I was like, you know what? I better do this right. Like, you know, I'm never going to have an opportunity like this probably ever again. And you know, I put a road bike on a trainer right next to my bed. So I have absolutely no excuse not to ride it. So I get on that thing a couple, you know, at least once a day, and, you know, try to get like, you know, a 30 in. And, you know, sometimes it's tough having a full-time job. You know, you wake up early in the morning and you get home and you just want to chill. But you know, I believe I have a little bit of a job to do this year, and you know, to continue to put the Challenger on the podium. And so yeah, I've been training a little bit, and I'm eating right, and you know, just trying to do what I can to better myself for the, you know, the situation given. And it should be pretty fun. But yeah, you know, I've lost a little bit of weight and got a little bit healthier, and, you know, just trying to make it a little easier on myself for the racing season this year.
Sean, there's a little backstory here, because when we worked together, I used to frickin' tow Frankie around the streets of Irvine we were on our road bikes, and frickin' the guy I'd look back, he'd be like a quarter of an inch off my back wheel. And then he'd say, Pablo, let me take over at the front for a bit. Well, a bit was probably 45 seconds. And then I'd have to go back to the front.
Smoked. And then we had to let Paul lead, so I can get in the draft to make it a little bit easier on myself. But yeah, no, like I said, I've been training and eating right. I actually just went and just last Friday I had surgery to have my deviated septum fixed so I could breathe a little bit better and get some more oxygen, and I just little things, the stuff that I needed to do. But I definitely feel like, you know, going into that surgery, that it was like going to be beneficial when it came time to race. So yeah, we're making it happen.
All right, well, that's good to hear, Frankie. I think I'm not sure if it works real well having the bike that close to the bed.
I love that.
You let me know if that works out for you, and maybe I'll bring mine.
It's been working. It's been working. You know, it gives me I have no excuse. It's like, I'm gonna lay in bed, and before I go to bed and watch a movie or something like that, my road bike's right there. I might as well get a spin on and get some pedals in before I lay my head down at night. So, like I said, it's those little things that just like I said, there's no excuse not to ride it when it's right there. So,
really
yeah, we've been making it happen.
I guess it's better than having it by the refrigerator.
Exactly. It's not next to the cookie jar. So,
all right, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing you at Road Atlanta. It's going to be fun having you at some of our rounds this year. You're a good boy, and I always enjoy your company. So I wish you the best.
I appreciate that.
And keep going on the training, get yourself in shape, and I think you'll get good results. It's a nice motorcycle, and you've got a good team behind you. So good luck with that. And I'm going to throw it over to Sean here. He's going to give a little bit of a commercial to end this thing, but we'll see you in a couple of weeks, Frankie.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much, Frankie. Great to talk to you. And thanks to the fans who are listening to this podcast. And while we have you on, Road Atlanta is coming up. So make sure you subscribe to MotoAmerica Live Plus, our popular subscription streaming service. And all the practices and qualifying and races for King of the Baggers Championship are going to absolutely be on Live Plus. And there'll be commentary. I'm sure Roger Hayden will have a good time talking about this stuff like he did at Laguna Seca. And also, don't forget to get your race weekend tickets for this season. Our rounds are going to have guests. You can go to MotoAmerica.com to get your tickets, to get Live Plus, and to keep track of what's going on leading into the season. So anyway, thanks again, Frankie.